Hi all, bit of a different video for you today. This is basically attacking 101. It's something I've been trying to do recently when I've been playing, is to be a lot more aggressive and be pushing and attacking. So I've put together a series of clips of various different attacks I've done over the recent games, and hopefully they might be able to help you with your attacking and give you some inspiration to be a bit more aggressive and a bit less sitting back and breaking the arty out. So let's start with just a perfectly normal situation here. I'm running a Russian list. I've got all my guys in BTRs and I'm attacking Alina. Now, chances are, if the enemy has any airborne infantry whatsoever, they're going to get in that town before me and they're going to be a pain to shift. So, with that thought in mind, I've deliberately picked starting units that will be able to attack Alina. Now, for an attack, there are basically four things you need to make the perfect attack: speed, surprise, smoke, and suppression. The two most important being smoke and suppression. And in this case, you will see tagging along at the end there a Berentino, which is perfect for attacking. It smokes enemy, blinds the line of sight, and suppresses them and kills stuff. It's just perfect. So the plan's very simple. I run at Alina. If I get there first, great, I've got a Berentino ready to smack any counter attack that comes, and if I don't, then I can use the Berentino to suppress them. And my starting unit choices are made up of mostly BMP 1Ds and BMP Ts, and I've got some VDV in there as well for dealing with tanks. Now the BMP Ts and the BMP 1Ds, they basically have grenade launchers, which perfect for suppressing infantry or anything that isn't a heavy tank. So as long as they don't have a heavy tank in there, I'm reasonably confident I'll be able to take the town. So, skipping ahead a bit, spotted enemy helicopters land behind the town, saw the enemy infantry heading in, you can just see glimpses of them there, so I've started to set up for an attack. I'm not even hanging around, this is a bit of a rush, I'm going in quite hard and fast here. Possibly should have slowed down a little. Again, bad micro there loses me the Strela, which probably not good. Attacking without air cover is never a good idea, but now it's time for Mr. Berentino. So there's some Legion 90. The grenade launchers immediately open up, start battering them. You can tell they must have quite a high veterancy, it takes a little bit to stun them. But now I've got them stunned, it's basically a case of keep the fire going on them. With all those grenade launchers, I'll soon chew through them. BMPT again, he's moved up, he's flanked the enemy. That is really handy because it stops reinforcements coming round. It's very important not just to defeat the frontline units, but to stop the enemy reinforcing the position too quickly. Again, this is another use for Mr. Berentino. Here he comes in, suppress the rest of the town. Any enemy infantry in the middle of that town now is going to be forced to the edge of it out in the open where the BMPDs can hit them. I've left a little gap though to allow my infantry to get in the front of the town, which is getting quite important because there's no point, you don't want your infantry standing around in the open to get airstrike to death. The Berentino has suppressed the infantry, it's cut off any supply of reinforcements to the front line, which should now allow me to get a foothold in the town. The grenade launchers keep piling it on. As you can see, I've taken quite a few casualties because I came in quite hastily. Possibly should have just stopped for a second or two and built my forces up properly and waited till Berentino had struck. In comes the Aardvark again. I'm stuck standing around out in the open. Bit of a mistake, I should have had the infantry running forward straight away rather than standing. But it's not the perfect attack, but it does what it's required to do, and I go on to take the town in the long run. So let's look at a similar scenario, very different deck. This one I'm using the Eurocore Armoured deck, lots of Leopards, Flak Gepards to give me AA, and some cheap artillery. Now in this one I'm pushing up the middle to Foxtrot with the Armoured, because basically it's open ground. Plan's dead simple, looking at the terrain, I know I can get to this side of Foxtrot before the enemy, so I'll form up this side of the trees, start laying smoke down against the far side, working under the assumption the enemy's gonna get to the far side of Foxtrot before me, and then just roll through with one big armoured battering hammer straight through to the other side, and hopefully, if I catch the enemy off guard, push to the town beyond. So here we are a bit further on now. My tanks have reached the staging point, so I'm just forming them up with the tanks to front and the AA to the back. I've started laying down smoke where I would expect the enemy to be. I use the word expect because you'll notice I've forgotten to put recce in. This was a bit of an oversight on my part. Sometimes when you're attacking you don't need it because you're literally just driving up to point blank range no matter what. In this situation with the open ground, a couple of recce tanks would have been a really good idea, but not to worry. So, to start it off, I just start selecting groups of things and hitting attack move forward. The reason is I want all my tanks to sort of be moving at once. Just get them going, and then specifically once they're moving, start picking out where they're all going to go individually. Again, with attack moves with tanks, because tanks generally work best when they're not, well, they shoot best when they're not moving. Now, immediately I start going across, and it very quickly becomes apparent I've managed to beat the enemy here. They weren't dug in these woods, they were just arriving, which was quite a nice surprise, really. Didn't expect that. You'll see I've also got a bit of infantry support with me, because I know this bit here, if my tank fails, we're really going to need something dug in this far side to stop the enemy just rolling down the middle. And now we hit the first problem, TEUM. I have nothing that can stop that thing. I've got nothing that can hurt it. You know, maybe if I could bring all my tanks to bear, and I could probably chase it off, you know, and kill it. But I just don't have anything. But thankfully, the one advantage of facing using cheaper tanks, like these are about 100 to 80 point tanks versus something like that, is if you're on a TEUM, especially at the start, you're going to be paranoid about losing it, and as is the case here, it immediately hits reverse as soon as it realises there's quite a few tanks there. So basically, the attack works. I managed to push through to the far side, beat back his initial rush, because you can see I've just arrived as the enemy's infantry that was heading to Foxtrot was rocking up, and chase that away and secure Foxtrot. Now, it's not easily secured. In the long run, that TEUM becomes an absolute pain in my side. It keeps popping out, killing a few tanks, popping back, to the point that I have to pull all my armour back to the other side of Foxtrot for quite a while. But the key thing is I've denied them the +5, secured us the +5, and the position's in our favour. So the attack worked, even if it maybe initially the destruction value wasn't worth it compared to what I lost in tanks. Now here's a bit of a different attack. This one's done mid-game. This is a planned set piece attack. We initially pushed over this river start of the game and got beaten back quite badly. So I've rebuilt my forces in the woods here, got some tanks up. One of my allies has brought up a bunch of infantry. I'm starting to lay down some smoke in the town there. Lots of smoke from cheap mortars, or 25 point mortars, they're perfect for it. And now I'm starting to push out across the bridge again. Across both bridges this time, hopefully, because last time we piled over the one bridge and airstrikes and everything, and napalm just messed up the attack. It was very silly. The other thing we're doing now is bringing up some air superiority fighters, not just myself but allies as well. This is quite important mid-game if you're attacking, because by this point there'll be lots of enemy aircraft, and you can see I'm moving up AA, but it's really hard to keep any kind of successful attack under a decent AA net, because the enemy you will advance quicker than your AA normally. So air superiority fighters all the way, because as soon as the enemy sees an attack, the first thing they'll do is start calling in the airplanes. So you can see now we've got the two bridges we're using, so we're piling over as quick as we can, and this time I'm moving over rather than attack moving to make sure I kind of keep going. We've already sort of infiltrated some mortar strelicky up there, which are doing a good job of just blocking that road and stopping enemy reinforcements coming in. So again, just redirecting the mortars now. They've done the job with the smoke. Just even if they don't hurt anything, it looks scary having lots of mortars dropping, even if they're not killing anything. Again, all the enemy aircraft in the world come rushing out now to try and stop the attack, but it's going quite well. Again, the smoke's meant that if there's infantry in there, we can't see it. You can also see this time I've brought along recce. Those recce tanks you see a lot of, they are really good for attacking, because they've got armour. They're still a tank. They may be a bit of a rubbish tank, but they're a tank and they can spot their target. So I've driven the tanks over, set up a sort of preliminary net. Boom, the infantry drive up, we spot the commandos, the tanks all open up. It's going to be, you know, quick smart for them to be over. Already in the left you can see we've pushed up quite well. And I'm just piling everything across the bridge as quick as I can, get it spread out now. Get the A up, because we know the enemy aircraft are going to come. And we've already got the command spotted. It's been a really good attack, it's caught them off guard. They weren't expecting us to come over in quite such force so devastatingly. And that's the perfect attack. Had all the elements. We managed to suppress the enemy, get the smoke down, surprised them, because if they weren't surprised they would have a lot more stuff waiting on us if they'd spotted us building up. And it was fast. It was nice and quick. We're over, spread out the tanks, and I was standing about in the open, but there's not much in the way of enemy just now out there, so it's working okay for us. It's time to start, you know, pushing up round the flanks. So here we are a little bit further on now. We managed to shove up the hill a bit and through these trees, because we had plenty left because the attack went quite well, but now we've hit a solid wall of enemy resistance. So rather than stopping and taking time to prepare, we just grabbed whatever infantry and tanks we had nearby, and now we're smoking the zone that the enemy are dug in, and we're going to start attacking it. We don't want to give them time to reinforce. We don't want to give them time to stabilise the front line because they're quite close to the respawn. So at this point, every second counts because they can get units to the front a lot quicker than we can, and they can react by spawning units into meter attacks. So at this point, it's really important to keep going. And again, you can see all their aircraft coming out, and it's another good thing is to make sure, again, interceptors up, they all run away. We've got a bit of AA up, and that's really important when you're attacking. I know I keep saying it, but the amount of times I've been attacking and had my attacks crushed because I've outpaced my anti-air, and just one bomber's come in and got me. And again, also keeping it spread out there so that one bomber can't get everything. So we're sweeping round, we're pushing in, and this, you will notice as well, is a destruction game. This isn't a conquest game. We're attacking this in destruction. And we're not that far in the lead that we could afford to theoretically risk this. And a lot of folks say destruction turns into an arty party that everyone just digs in. But it doesn't have to. That only happens when you choose to let it. If you keep attacking, your opponent has to then feed units into the front line to stabilise it. And if they're doing that, they're not spending all these spare points on artillery. You know, artillery does have a place, but that artillery's place is to support the attacks, suppress the enemy, pick off the AA, that kind of thing. Sure, snipe that. That's good, that helps you with your attack. It means your aircraft can function closer to the front line. But it doesn't have to be the end of it. Like here, you can see I'm firing mortars at a leopard. Now, they're not going to hurt it, those mortars are terrible. But hopefully they'll scare the enemy, they might detrack it, they might panic it, and it just generally, it's more explosions to make the enemy look like there's more of a force there than there is. And as you can see now, our attack here on the right has started to hit a bit of a wall. We're running out of steam. So what we've done now is we've started pushing up the valley to the left because the enemy reinforcements are all sweeping round to try and meet our attack to the right, which, if you look now, consists of a couple of mortar strelicky. You know, I've got a few more reinforcements forming up down there, so forming them up again behind the front line before you push them in. Like, I've made that mistake, and a lot of folk do. Don't spawn your stuff right at the front line. Spawn it out of sight a bit further back, and then decide where it's going in. It's a much better sort of use of it. Again, now you can see the enemy's getting a bit desperate, so the aircraft are coming in. We've got a good AA net up, we've pushed our AA net up in the left, so any aircraft are pretty much 3 points at this point. And you can see that the score is just sort of slowly creeping ahead for us here as the attack goes in properly. And attacking like this really, I think, makes the game much more fun. And this, if this was Conquest, this would be a great way to play it just as well. So attacking works in both destruction and conquest. The only time you shouldn't be attacking is if you've taken a bit of a hammering at the beginning, you fall back, you dig in, you get the arty out, you sort of creep back a few points while you build up your force to then go in the offensive. And it's also important never to quit. Like a lot of folk, you know, they lose their starting force and they drop out the game and they quit. Well, I've had games like that where we've got hammered at the beginning like 1,000 points down, but we've managed to claw it back for a draw or a win, and they're some of the best games, and you learn more. And you always learn more from a defeat than you ever do from a victory. So if you're losing, don't quit. Take it as a chance to practice. Use it as a chance to practice attacking. You've got nothing to lose. You know, if you're already kind of getting humped, you may as well sort of challenge the enemy, push forward, see what you're actually capable of doing, see what your units are capable of doing. And also, playing with an armoured deck is a great way to practice your attacking, because with armour you really have to attack. It's not a defensive force. And now here you can see this is what Rocket Arty's good at. At this point, you know, we've maybe a wee bit overkill. We're doing quite well. We're up in the points. So here comes, this is suppression. This is what Rocket Arty works best at. It's not probably killing much, but what it is doing is just suppressing the whole zone for our attack to go in. So at this point, you know, any AA will be suppressed. Any sort of smaller, weaker units could get destroyed. Will be causing damage across everything. It may not kill much, but it'll cause a lot of damage. And that's the main thing we want. It just forces the enemy to attack. Now, as you can see, I'm keeping reinforcements coming to the front, because that's the other tricky thing to do when you're attacking, is you get stuck micromanaging your attack. So you go in, you're microing those units, they get killed, and sure, you've got a lot of points, but now you've got no units anywhere near the front, and you have to wait on them coming out. Whereas if you can try and get in the habit of just constantly, every minute or two, just spawning more units to the front line and trying to think ahead to what you need. Like, I'm quite good in tanks, so I'm a bit low in infantry. I'll bring up more infantry because we're going to be fighting through a forest here now. That kind of way helps keep the pressure going constantly. And at this point, you know, we've driven some T-72s right through the middle. At this point, we've got this one locked down, and that's what happens. We capture this spawn zone, we get a command in there, and we start spawning stuff, and we push into Fedor. And again, this game was all just, it started with a bad attack. We went across and we got beaten back badly. I lost almost every tank I went across with. and my ally lost most of his starting force as well. So we were very much on the back foot at the beginning, and it was only because we stuck with it, rebuilt, and played smart and attacked the game. We didn't just turn it into an arty party. We attacked and kept the pressure on, that we came through to have a big win in the end in this one. So hopefully you'll all be able to take something away from that. And if nothing else, just get out there, be more aggressive, and start attacking more. And I think you'll find the game is a lot more fun. Catch y'all later.